Oh God. Oh yeah. There we have it, folks. Hello, world. It's me, Riley Soliner. We're back with another episode of Clash Clown, the not funny clown podcast hosted by me, Riley, a funny clown. Ha ha, beep, beep, honk, squeak. Hoo, 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 hoo. Yeah, here we go. This is the 10th episode. 10th. It's episode number 9. But it is the 10th episode because there is an episode 0 because I'm annoying. Because because the number 0 means something to me. All right. I'm nervous. I'm anxious. And sure, yeah, if you want to be that if you okay, well, this is quickly you're gonna see what, oh God. All right, hey, how's this starting with a story, with a memory? Tumblr, you remember? You remember Tumblr? I gotta relax. You remember Tumblr? I used to post uh, a late night talk show video on Tumblr called The Midnight Minute with Riley Soliner. That was my talk show for a minute long talk show on Tumblr. And, like New York talk shows do from time to time, they bring it to LA for a week, right? Well, I brought it to the Bay Area because that's where I was staying with my mom. And so my mom was the sidekick for a week of Midnight Minute episodes. And for one of the episodes, I asked my mom to come up with a catchphrase that uh, an old school talk show sidekick would have. And one of these catchphrases that completely dumbfounded me, it was was the word Joosh. Joosh, Joosh, Joosh. I had never heard this word before in my life. And as this inquisitive look just washed over my face, my mom got more and more emphatic. Joosh, Joosh. I had no idea, right? She told me that was kind of like a jokey, cutesy way of saying Jewish that she learned from my grandfather, Sheldon Burlow. Joosh. That's the title of the episode this week, Joosh. Because okay, here's yet another one of the things that I've been afraid to talk about. Maybe I've touched on it, and I don't know how much repeating myself I'm going to do because I don't listen to this podcast. Sadly, I could use a better listener base. It starts with me, But what am I talking about? Being a Jewish clown, or just being a Jew and seeing how that influences my being a clown. How I hope that being a clown might influence my being a Jew, and the fact that these things are challenging and scary for me to talk about, and that's why I'm doing the show. Okay, so let me talk about being Jewish for an hour. What do I remember? Let's go farther back than the Tumblr years. Okay, let's go back to being single digit age. um, I'm in my living room in Albany, California. It is sundown, and my dad is lighting the menorah. My dad was as unserious as he could be about almost everything. When it came time to demonstrate being uh, faithful to something, he would get real serious and he would sing the songs with sincerity that he learned in Hebrew school. There was a touch of absurdism in all of it, though, because we didn't wear yarmulkes. He decided that any hat was acceptable. So when it was time to celebrate Hanukkah, I don't remember, what kind of silly hat I wore, but I do remember my dad's big white cowboy hat. So When I think about Hanukkah, I think about lighting a menorah. I do think cowboy hats, which I think is just so funny. And my mom, she grew up Jewish as well, but um, she really never took religion seriously, or I don't remember a time when she did. I don't know when that exactly changed for her. But I do know that it was kind of an eye roll, kind of a doing it to appease my dad's seriousness and commitment to it. And there were times when, my dad would be really locked into singing the prayers for lighting the menorah. And me and my mom would just kinda look at each other knowingly, kind of with a smirk, just kind of like I think I would maybe point out like, "Oh, one of those Hebrew words that my dad was singing sounded like this word in English." And my dad would quickly shoot down that kind of like not even really a joke, just kind of an observation, but, like, let's not even make a joke out of the observation, like, no room for funny, and I think that's quite funny too. But, my mom I guess she nurtured that instinct in that way at that time. And so, as serious as my dad was, though he was wearing a cowboy hat instead of a yarmulke, me and mom would look at each other just like, "There's that word that we don't know what it means," you know? So that's Hanukkah, lots of happy Hanukkah memories, and, I'm looking at, I think most of my understanding of Judaism, uh, is through media. I myself was not bar mitzvahed, we'll get to that in a little bit, but, Saturday Night Live was a big deal for my dad, I think boomers in general, right? And so I ended up watching a lot of SNL with my dad and seeing something like Hanukkah Harry. I remember my dad, like, rooting for Hanukkah Harry like it's like they're the fort like Hanukkah Harry is the 49ers, like, clapping and, like, fist pumping and like, "Yes, we get Hanukkah Harry on television." I mean, John Lovett's Jewish, right? I mean, how stupid do I sound asking that question? But, yeah, the John Lovitz character, Hanukkah Harry, who delivered gifts like socks, great value, 6 pairs, you know? My dad still quotes Hanukkah Harry to this day. And then of course, Adam Sandler singing the Hanukkah song was a huge deal to my dad, um, especially the line about, smoking marijuana, right? Oh, that's like such a double win for my dad. Jewish and pothead representation. I wonder if my dad's ever seen 1 second of a Seth Rogen movie, because that would probably make his head fly off. Um, let's see. And then, of course, there's non-Jews doing Judaism or Jewish characters, and for some I mean, I guess we weren't we weren't in a time or a place or a mindset for us to find that offensive, right? So, Mike Myers doing Linda Richman Coffee Talk, was seen as another win, and to see Mike Myers' character sitting next to Madonna, sitting next to Roseanne, sitting next to Barbara Streisand, and my dad, I remember specifically him pointing at the TV and going, "Mike Myers is sitting there with the 3 most powerful women in the world." I think he might have said the world. I think he meant entertainment, right? But, yeah, Mike Myers, it felt like a loving tribute or like like a light, loving jab of caricature. I mean, yeah, Linda Richman rules, right? A nice drag moment from a straight dude, as far as I know. And yes, is there more of a point here that and then of course I've mentioned on the podcast before the Nickelodeon puppet show Wienerville included a parody of Ramones' I Wanna Be Sedated. Bam, 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 bam. I wanna light the menorah. And this made my dad cackle. Yeah, Judaism understood through a television lens, right? And so when it is understood this way, without without a ton of community or influence in real life, Judaism starts to take on an aesthetic quality without the tangible, social, communal, spiritual quality, right? So you begin to learn, you know, stereotypes like, bagels and emotions in strange places or uh, Northeastern accent, even if you're not in the North, born and raised in the Northeast, right? Is that, and then all the hateful stereotypes too. They start to come, especially like, okay, being raised on South Park and being excited that, there's this contrarian Eric Cartman trickster who's, calling Kyle a Jew to let you know that that's not a nice thing to say, but then your friends start saying it. Gets weird, right? And being so, and personally, like adverse to like going to Hebrew school, the intimidation of like more school on top of the thing that I already hate doing for what? For a spiritual reason? Uh, I mean, as a teenager, like, fuck that, right? Like, absolutely hating. I think I've already spoken about, like, how much I hated religion multiple times as a teenager on this show, so we won't need to get into that. Needless to say, I skipped Hebrew school, and, I did go to one bar mitzvah. My best friend at the time, John Lawrence, who, I don't know. I was proud of him. I was happy for him. I was happy to be there. And I remember the gift that I got him was the 3 VHS box set of the CKY videos. Okay, that's where we were. And I don't know. What am I really getting at here? I guess when the when you have the aesthetic and the stereotypes and just media approximations of Judaism to look up to without any kind of spiritual communal tether. I am remembering now as I say that though, I went to the JCC after school program and there was this great song leader, guitar player named Ira. And he was so cool, charismatic. He was a big Beatles fan. He always sung Beatles song to us. He helped us write songs that we would then sing the next week. I remember him. Yeah, yeah. Damn, this episode's going to be all over the place. All right. This is stuff I don't think about much, and then I completely crammed all of my thoughts into this haphazard list. Back to media, because that's where that was my first and kind of original understanding of this stuff. Right. My parents did their best to foster my inclination to comedy stuff early on. I remember a very pivotal birthday gift when I was young, either birthday or Hanukkah gift, was the CD box set of Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner, The 2,000-Year-Old Man. And I don't, I mean, there have to be, there, of course, there's like Jewish, it's been so long since I've listened, but there, of course, there are Jewish jokes in there of, uh, of the 2,000-year-old man meeting and knowing Jesus. I can't remember any of it right now, but Jewish comedy, right? Jewish humor. I was a big John. I was a big Jon Stewart guy, especially in the late '90s, early 2000s. It was his speech, um, first episode of Daily Show after 9/11, that really sealed the deal on him being a cherished and trustable figure for me to watch for many years. And I read Al Franken's books, where he would rail against Fox News and all that shit in high school. Woody Allen movies were a big deal to me. Beastie Boys, Joan Rivers, Sacha Baron Cohen, Andy Kaufman, Adam Sandler, and of course The Lonely Island, who, um, God, I could probably do a whole episode on The Lonely Island one day. But shit, yeah, recognizing Jewish as dark humor, smart, skeptical, uh man, and I'm ignorant beyond this, right? Even now I can't really fully find the words because it's something that I avoided for so long. It's something that I shed tears over, like being so angry. Please do not send me to Hebrew school. Little did I know my parents were playing good cop, bad cop the whole time. The Hebrew school, which they knew was never a possibility, was a ruse so to get me to go to Camp Winter Rainbow. Everyone behind the scenes at Camp Winter Rainbow was begging me to one day attend as a camper, and I refused that too until Hebrew school was placed as this red herring. And I said, all right, fine, compromise. I'll go to Camp Winter Rainbow. And that was my bar mitzvah. That was my coming of age. That was my spiritual awakening through creativity, through community, through, yes, there, to me, there is a spiritual tether from my creative writing, performing, and teaching to spirituality or just spirit, just what it does for my emotions and even my my mind and my body. And so they got me there. But again, um, growing into an adult, being more skeptical and more angry about religion, I just avoided, while still kind of, I guess, is there this is all like I first, I guess I'll just introduce the word diaspora and that I had no idea what that meant or the context of any of this for years and years. But I think there is some kind of privilege in being able to go, yeah, I'm Jewish, bagel, big nose, anxiety, uh, brash, but none of the spiritual stuff, none of the religion, none of the, I mean, decades before even understanding Israel as a geopolitical bully. Like, I know I've already covered Israel a little bit. We got a lot to cover, baby. Um, what changed? What changed for me? What what brought me online? I mean, I don't I mean I remember rarely, but sometimes giving some kind of sincere effort into the the prayer on Fridays at the Jewish Community Center after school program that I was a part of, and drinking the grape juice. I remember specifically one time, the most sincere version of the prayer that I ever tried to give my heart over to. I closed my eyes with my little Dixie cup of grape juice and fully splashed it all over the front of my shirt, and it was so like, God, what a Jewish clown moment, sincerely. And man, what else? I mean, I have written down here just how's this? Jews as clowns, right? Okay. Jews at not all Jews. Right? But okay, let's think of Jewish humor and let's think of fucking hell. This is embarrassing. Things I wrote down like saying the unsayable. I think about Joan Rivers, Mel Brooks, even Jon Stewart or Al Franken, and just and clowns as this idea as like as someone that's willing to step beyond the comfort zone, maybe even step beyond the danger zone to say what must be said and say it in a charismatic, humorous, shrug kind of way to to release the tension or to speak the truth. Right? I'm being reminded of the Oscar Wilde quote. If you're going to tell the truth, make them laugh or they'll kill you, which is so funny to me because they'll kill you anyway. Um, What? Okay, what else? Scapegoats, Jews. Let's play Jews or clowns. Scapegoats, undermined, the losers of history. All right, so I was listening to a podcast with some self-proclaimed history buff, and it started to sound, I mean, really anti-Semitic. But I mean, hey, podcasts, right? But I also just had to. It was the first time that I heard anybody break down the history of like from an outside perspective, from a non-Jewish perspective, this idea of like, I mean, of course, it's baked into the history of every ceremony, of every Passover, of Hanukkah, of just this idea that the temples were razed, the land was stolen, the land was desecrated, and we rebuilt and we moved on and we moved to a different place and we built there. We found community there. We held on to these people, these memories, and we built and we built and we built. And then just to hear someone so casually just say, yeah, they had to build a religion out of being a loser because they're the biggest losers in history is so funny to, it's like so beyond hateful that like if it wasn't even said with a hate, whether or not that's a hateful thing to say, it was, it just felt so beyond hateful that it's like, huh, I never thought about it that way. And then you want to talk about clowns and flopping and finding the flop interesting and finding a solvable problem in the failure and moving on beyond that and then creating a celebration, an inclusive game out of the failure. I mean, the clash clown is clashing, right? The Venn diagram is venning right there. You see the do you see the overlap? And then of course, Jews or clowns, round 3, the nose, right? The nose. For everyone watching on video before this goes audio, you see my profile, you see my nose. You just think of just think of any Jew, right? You see the nose and how beautiful, how big and beautiful, right? And I've spoken before in my theatrical clown episode about the nose as a lens and a window, right? And if I can be embarrassing here, right? Like similarly, like, I've already talked about the Jewish sensibility, sense of humor, aesthetic in entertainment, and it is a lens. It is a lens through which they see the world. It is a window through the world sees them, right? And then I think I've mentioned, the red clown nose as a bullseye, right? It's a lens, it's a window, it's a mask, it's a bullseye. It's a bullseye for those who undermine the clown, for those who say the clown isn't funny. A clown is someone uh, to which you lob your insults, right? And so the nose, the Jewish nose, as a bullseye, as something that sometimes I have felt intimidated at times to wear my regular Jewish human nose in the world, you know, um, fear of being singled out, or the preemptive fear-based reaction to single myself out. And I see my nose that way, and then to come around and to wear a clown nose with pride, to come around and wear a clown nose with a feeling of there's something beautiful about this work, as absurd as it is, as much failure is involved in this work as it is. Um, so again, maybe that's something I can transfer from this time spent delighting in all this clown work that I do, finding a way to make it interesting and liberating for myself as a Jew. You see, I can barely say it without doing something to my voice, putting a little too much mustard on it, because it's strange to talk about for me. I'm sure somebody um, is good at talking about it. I want to go back to a question I asked. Where did this start? Right? Because I don't even remember where I started to become conscious of something as significant as the Holocaust, right? Did I learn about it in school? I don't remember. Okay, well, I think I read Night Okay, so maybe that's it. Maybe reading Night was a turning point. Um, but I don't remember a lot of history lessons. I don't remember a lot of that was a book I read in a really good English class. But I don't remember history lessons about the Holocaust. I mean, I was not a good history student. I didn't give a fuck, man. Um, yeah, World War II. But also, I feel like I would have had a personal reaction and attachment and a stronger memory if we learned about the Holocaust in high school in detail, right? Um, damn. But something I do remember, something that did change things, this was years and years later. I'm with my mom and Elena. We're visiting my mom, and uh, at at these times in this stretch of years when I visit my mom, it's very much like it's new and novel that weed can be delivered to one's home. So there was plenty of weed everywhere, and so I eat an edible and decide, you know what? It's a movie I've never seen before, but here's a clown that I've really always really wanted to get into. Roberto Benigni. I remember when Roberto Benigni won the Oscar for Life is Beautiful, and he stood up on those chairs and then he made such a great speech, and everybody just fell in love with Roberto Benigni. And this movie is called Life is Beautiful. Let's watch Life is Beautiful. I don't even know what this movie's about. Come to realize this is one of the most impressive, incredible, and horrifying movies I've ever seen because, and remember, the edible is kicking in, the edible is activating, right? And Life is Beautiful does something I've never seen a movie do. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert on Life is Beautiful, which is a Holocaust movie, okay? But it's a movie that's kind of split into two halves. With the first half of the movie is a raucous, ridiculous, very witty, intricate, like playing, like word play, and but also physical, visually dazzling movie set in Italy with fascism slowly creeping in, and it's hilarious, and it's absurd, and it's just so charming. That's the first half of the movie. And then the second half of the movie is a movie where this witty, lovable protagonist gets sent to a concentration camp with his young son, and it is literally a clown of a man doing his best to survive both physically and spiritually in a Nazi death camp, right? And maybe I'm not describing the way that it flips from a clown movie about the Holocaust to then a Holocaust movie about a clown. It's incredible. And I think the image I was sitting next to Elena quietly flipping out watching this movie. I mean, completely wrapped. It just 100% enjoying it, but also feeling the terror and just the full spectrum of emotion that this movie is trying to pull out. Like I was right back in 1997 when this movie came out. I was gonna say in the 40s, but that's somehow that sounds even more disrespectful. Um, but there was a moment in the movie where Roberto Benigni's character pulls down the metal gate in front of his storefront, and there's just a yellow star on, it's like spray painted on his storefront gate, and that just like it just pierced me, like terrified me. And Elena, sitting next to me, she was like, are you okay? Like, yeah. I think we talked about it after the movie, but I think she had in the conversation. I think she told me that she had seen the movie before, but um, Cleveland, right? Not around any Jewish people, so the impact of the movie was different. But to be sitting next to uh, her Jewish fiance clown, um, fully high on an edible, going insane, but refusing to look away. Like, yeah, of course, that's gonna affect her in a different, and the movie is gonna have a more effective, I don't even know what to call it. But yeah, that was pivotal, right? And then what else changed? Well, how's this for speaking of fiance, Elena and I get married in 2018, and I believe it was in 2019 that we went on our honeymoon. No, we didn't go to Jamaica. We didn't go to Hawaii. She did not get married to vacation, Jason. She got married to Riley Soliner. And I got married to Elena. And Elena is Polish. And not only is Elena Polish, Elena is an experienced design professional, immersive theatrical experience design professional. And she found and signed up for this summit of experienced designers. And they all happened to be meeting in an ancient castle in her homeland of Poland. And so the idea was Elena goes off and does this ridiculous castle immersive experience. And then a week later, I'm going to fly to Warsaw and we'll meet in Warsaw and have a honeymoon in Poland. And uh, our money is going to go really far there. Elena's going to get to speak Polish to everyone, and I'll just kind of be, carrying the bags. We're going to have these amazing European brunches. We'll go to some art museums, this and that. We're gonna go to Krakow. So we spend some time in Warsaw. It's great. We take the beautiful first class train to Krakow, and this was part of the planning process. We're like, are we gonna go to is it Auschwitz? Are we gonna go? No, no, let's not. But on the first night we were in Krakow, there was I think it's Arthur Schindler. It's Schindler's factory that he converted into. You see, I'm such a fucking moron. Did he converted his factory into a hiding place for all those Jews that he saved? Is that what happened? I'm asking you. I haven't seen Schindler's List. Put it on the Clash Clown Movie Club watch list. Put Life is Beautiful on before Schindler's List. Fuck. Anyway, we go to Schindler's factory to take the tour, and man, I start tripping out. Not because I took an edible, I took acid. Just kidding. But the funny thing, one funny thing about visiting the Schindler Museum on your honeymoon is there was a high school, or there was some kind of tour being led by a tour guide, and we were just far enough away from the tour that like I could kind of sneak up and like be a part of the tour without paying for the tour. But I was being so struck and shook by the information that the tour was giving that I was like visibly I was so visibly nervous that I was making everybody else so nervous. I mean, this was like the first time I was hearing this stuff. As a not history buff, as a man, is it even worth describing what I saw in the museum? Just like there's a corridor in the museum that is decorated to emulate like a hyper patriotic Nazis living space, right? Like a living room of a Nazi in Germany. And they had these kitchen tiles. Each kitchen tile had a swastika. So like you're walking on this floor of just infinite swastikas. And that hey, yeah, that fucked me up, right? And I don't know, just thinking about the hyper patriotism of just like shitty Trump flag shit you can buy, or just like, anyway, don't let me do this right now. But yeah, at the end of the Schindler Museum, which is so beautiful for so many reasons, there is a message of hope. There is a message of gratitude. There's these two books. And they're just these giant open books on these two podiums, and one of them is just all of these horror stories that you can flip through, these first person accounts of the horror, the terror, the depravity, the destruction. And in the other book are stories of hope, of people, um, first person accounts of how they were rescued or how they were protected or how they survived and what they're grateful for in their survival. And and I wish I could go. Being so emotionally and physically exhausted going through that museum, you I am saying you, but like I couldn't give as much attention and energy to that second book as I wanted, but it was incredible. It was mind-blowing. And maybe that, now that I think about it, was like a very motivating factor in, like, in not just resenting what the nefarious and selfish versions of organized religion do to people's minds, and maybe not just resenting um my own ignorance of what Judaism is and how it can be a liberating or empowering or thought-provoking aspect of who I am, right? I still don't know what that path is. I still I and it's this clown shit that makes me want to have a more open mind and a more self a greater capacity for self-compassion to actually figure stuff out, to fail in public and to experiment and to connect over that. But yeah. Oh, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. That was another pivotal read. I think I read that after I came home from Poland. Written by a psychologist who was doing his own. He came up with a theory for a life philosophy called, I think it's man, I don't even remember. But the idea was, you imagine you've lived your life twice, and in the second go, you imagine you've lived your life one time already, and so you put yourself in the shoes of someone who's already lived this exact life, and so you get to decide in the present how you would do it better, right? And then after doing this, all this work, all this study, all this theorizing on this new uh, psychological tool for enlightenment, he gets sent away to concentration camps, right? And so here's the ultimate test of this theory that he now has to put into practice or die. And he makes it through and he writes this incredible book. So there's that. What else? I guess what do I want to do? Man, how you doing? Thanks to everybody in the chat. I don't really publicize that I'm going live, but I fucking appreciate the people hanging out live as I gather my thoughts. Thanks for being here. The Losers of History, Roberto Benini. Huh. All right. How about this one? Here's a story from this week. So, my goal was 10 episodes of Clash Clown before the end of March. And I had been very proud to be recording weekly for 9 weeks in a row. 10th week came around and I didn't know what to record about. I forgot that I really was afraid to, but had a strong desire to do a Joosh episode, but it just wasn't on my mind, right? Because I've been working. I got a new job. I'm an usher at a famous concert hall. And it's a pretty sweet job. It's easy for me because I've worked in the service industry for a long time doing much harder work, holding a silver tray with hors d'oeuvres or, picking up people's chicken bones at weddings, shit like that. This job is so much easier because I'm in this beautiful concert hall. Everybody is already snapped into like politeness because of just the awe that this setting inspires in people and the history of this concert hall. and I'm wearing a uniform that is so costume like that I can't help but snap into a character that I've started calling Mr. Right This Way. You know? Oh, sure, right. Of course, I'm so happy to help you. Here, spit in my hand. That's a joke that seems to make a lot of my coworkers laugh when I recount my catering days. Sure, spit in my hand. So I'm helping people to their seats. I'm watching operas and orchestras and pianists and jazz singers, and it's pretty inspiring to be there, to be honest. I'm paying debt doing this job. Great. And oh, even better. Last week we have a little team meeting. There's going to be a Jewish youth choir. Now, I do not like working youth choir shows. Nobody does, because the clientele that you're dealing with in the seats are the parents, the families. So obnoxious. And allow me this, okay? As Jewish families can be a little much. Can I say that on my Jewish Clown podcast? That Jewish families coming to see their kids sing in a show in a concert hall can be a lot. Ugh, a lot, a lot. So I'm handing them the program as they finish walking up the stairs. Every single family has to tell me how exhausted they are from walking up the stairs. Every single family has to tell me how steep the stairs are. Every single family has to tell me how far away the stage is from this section of the balcony. Yes, 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 of course, right this way. Well, you'll be sitting a little bit closer from here. You'll be in row B, which is very good row. Mr. Right this way, And it and so we have a concert hall just full of Jews. Big, big Jewish concert hall today. And they're all, doing their thing. And I'm getting through it because this job isn't that hard. It's just a little irritating from time to time. And uh it's part of the job is I sit in for part of the concert. And there is the choir, they're singing in Hebrew. And then, I mean, I should have seen this coming. How did I not see? Ugh, didn't mean to. All right. Oh my. Okay, but I just made a fucking Elon. I just stole Elon Musk's joke. Fuck. God damn it. What am I saying here? How did I not see this coming? Um, the youth, one of them steps forward and starts giving a speech. There's a few speeches between songs, right? And one of the speech was about a recently passed community member who was a big deal to these youth choirs, who promoted Jewish community, Jewish pride, and Zionism. And my heart sinks, right? Because it's like, of course, they're singing in Hebrew. And this is like, I think they had flown in singers from Israel. There was like Chicago, New York, Philly, Tel Aviv. I don't know. There were just youth choirs singing these Hebrew choir songs. And I realized, like, okay, I look, I can't say 100% of this giant concert hall was full of Zionist Jews, but it was like nobody's shaking their head at this. Nobody's flinching but me. This sucks. This fucking sucks. I don't feel good. I feel bad. I'm Jewish, And God, I was so over it at that point. Like, not just over it, but like all I can do at this point is like start improvising in my mind of like, how am I going to disrupt this concert from the balcony? Am I gonna yell something? Am I gonna lose my job? Am I gonna scream free Palestine? Am I going to what the fuck do I do? Do I yell Zionist pig? Do I what not like what do I just leave? Do I quit quietly? what the fuck do I do? And now, and then it's like, well, what's the funny version of this? Throw up the middle fingers, Degeneration X, crotch chop, like, uh, do I do I do I take off my stupid red jacket and throw it over like, what do I do? Do I go down to ground floor and run on stage? Do I grab the mic? What do I do? This also reminds me, real quick, side note. Earlier this year, I was working my catering job, and I was asked to leave the banquet hall that I was working at so that I could fill in at Columbia University, which I've worked there many times. I worked their graduations, whatever, 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 right? But on this day, I was asked to go to I forget the fucking name of, like, it's like a business or like international affairs wing of Columbia University. And suddenly I'm in the room with Hillary Clinton. Like, I'm the one holding the microphone as people are asking students in this Columbia University wing, asking questions to Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton even acknowledged me in the room, saying, like, if you have any questions, you can I think she said, the young person with the microphone. She didn't want to assume my gender, which was so enlightened of her. But yeah, I was like holding this fucking live microphone in a room with Hillary Clinton. What do I do? Because the encampments had just been broken up at Columbia University. And they're talking about, like, maximizing your potential as a fucking government assistant or whatever, careerist bullshit. And it's like, I could get on this mic, right? Do I just drop the mic on the floor like a clown and make it feedback? Do I burp into it accidentally? How do I fuck with this situation with Hillary Clinton of all people at Columbia University of all places? Okay, so look, I'm just saying there's some kind of thread this year of I'm finding myself in situations where it's like, all right, is this the moment? Do I pull my phone out and, like, have, like, 1 minute of being viral on anti-fascist memes on Instagram before the Secret Service follows me around for the rest of my life? Whatever. I'm at the concert hall listening to this they're not called the Zionist Youth Choir, but that's what I've started calling them. And I do nothing. Of course I do nothing. Because what is there to do except my job? And I'm so anti-thrilled at this point. I'm so disappointed that I have to put the Mr. Right This Way mask back on and thank everybody for coming as they file out, and, tell them, hey, see you next time. Hey, thanks for coming. The exits are this way. But I do have one moment of quiet vindication and pride, because one of my favorite aspects of this job, working at this concert hall, is I'm the guy that tells people to get off their phone. And I fucking love it. Call me a cop, whatever, but I get to be a cop in the name of the sanctity of the live performance going on stage. And if you don't like me telling you that, well, how about I tell you that there is a legal agreement between the artist and the venue that prohibits photography and video recording. So please put the phone down. I fucking love saying that with a smile to these obnoxious parents. Oh, it's not enough that your child is performing here. You want a shitty video from the balcony that nobody's going to watch? You can't even hear what they're singing? You asshole. I kid you not. The closing number for this youth choir, all the regional choirs come on stage and everybody stands up and starts singing the Israeli national anthem. And my mind pukes, right? What a fucking, like, perfect situation for someone trying to reckon with his Jewish identity in 2025, not knowing what to do, just being sickened by everything. And I'm in a room full of thousands of Jews singing the Israeli national anthem, and there's one woman there filming her stupid child, with her iPhone, filming the goddamn Israeli national anthem. So and this is my favorite fucking thing to do, even better than telling her to stop, is I step in front of her camera. So it's just like a postage stamp of a choir through this tiny screen. And then all you see is red jacket and white shirt and bow tie. And I'm like, excuse me, could you please stop? And she goes, well, this was the first time I heard this excuse. It was, well, the Israeli national anthem there's no copyright on it. So there's no trademark. So it's okay. And it's like, no, 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 you're not supposed to be filming in here, asshole. And she had one more thing to say. It's like, well, tell that to everybody else. And I'm like, yes, I will. I fucking will. I'm going over to put my hand in front of other people's cameras right now. Yeah, that felt good. That was my one granular moment of activism in that moment, and it felt good. Oh, also related but not is in my backpack at work in the locker room, a copy of The Diary of Anne Frank, because that's what I decided I should be reading right now. And then I find myself among this fucking anyway. It's just a funny little detail that doesn't really make sense, but of course it makes sense. 2 days later, I'm in a beautiful yoga studio because I have a friend who owns a yoga studio and he has started welcoming clowns to use it as a place to do workshops. The leaders of the workshop, Corey Padell and John Norris. And I'm so glad that I didn't look them up before doing this workshop, because if I had, I would have been way more freaked out and way more like, oh, what do I do to impress them? Kind of bullshit, right? But it was a 2-day workshop, and it was a great mix of close friends, people I hadn't met before, but everyone was serious about getting a lot out of the workshop and putting a lot into it. And so it was just a really great environment in the room. And on the second, no, at the end of the first day, Corey and John taught us um, a neo-futurist theater devising tool where everybody free wrote in their notebooks for like 8 minutes, right? And then we gave a log line to the story that we wrote. And then we got in small groups and everybody said the log lines to each other in these groups. And then from the log line, everybody wrote just 2 possible story beats for each log line on Post-its. So every story that everybody wrote would have 6 Post-it notes, because the math. Look, if you really want, we can text about it if you're confused, right? But the story that I wrote in this exercise was the story of what had happened 2 days earlier at the concert hall. And Usher slowly realizes that he's in the middle of like a Zionist youth choir performance, right? So my friends wrote on Post-it notes just different ideas that could make up this story. And then we would collaboratively move the Post-it notes up and down in a line to try to arrange this to how it would make the best story. And then the next day we came back with those story beats, and we would have literally maybe 5 to 10 minutes to try to prepare a story that we would put on stage in front of everybody else. And so my story got picked, and I started it. It was like, this was like, it's hard to even call it a rough draft. It's rougher than a rough draft. It was semi improvised and just putting something on its feet. But what emerged was this storytelling show where I would narrate what had happened, and then my 2 friends that collaborated with me on this would come out as different characters that I interacted with throughout that day. And I started it by saying something like, the last thing I ever wanted to do when I moved to New York was write a storytelling show where I reckon with my Jewish identity. But something happened 2 days ago, and now we're here. And that's true. I never wanted to be like the one-man show off Broadway storytelling, like, my mom's Jewish. What was the name of that show? My mom's Jewish. My dad's Catholic. I'm a masseuse. My dog is dying. And it's just like, I didn't want to do one of those until I guess I'm looping it all back around to this idea that I didn't even share in the beginning, which was this, I guess, this privilege of like, I can carry the aesthetic of Jewish identity without the spiritual responsibility or the social responsibility of it. And so it's this thing where it's just incredibly convenient for me to use it as a toy or as a way to endear people to me or for me to identify with. It becomes terrifying until it becomes catastrophic, right? And yeah, I certainly feel lacking and responsible in a certain way now that Israel is the bully of the world, as it has been for many years. But I've never been um, curious enough to understand that. I mean, but I'm not saying it was a great show, what I did a few days ago, but it was interesting. It was cathartic, and I don't even know what I'm gonna do with what I did when I did that clown workshop. But I don't know. There's no happy ending for that show. I don't think, right? It was anticlimactic in real life for me to just have to grin and bear it as I, thanked everybody for being there and showed them to the exit, right? But then 2 days ago, a different show happened at this concert hall. It was a tribute to Patti Smith. And I don't know much about Patti Smith, but I know I feel like I should know a lot about Patti Smith because I'm such a fan of the time and place where she came into her own, right? This 70s New York punk scene, right? And I'm watching all these fucking amazing artists do tributes to Patti Smith, and Patti comes out at the end and she reads poetry about, who's going to build the world when all the children are gone. And she doesn't have to say more than that, right? But you know exactly what she's talking about. I'm listening to an episode of Julia Louis-Dreyfus's podcast that my mom sent me after I told her this story. And Patti Smith, she talks about, I don't care where they are, I don't care who they belong to, I'm for the children. It's a beautiful sentiment. She's for peace and she's for love, and sometimes people bristle at that because it's the highest thing you can be for. And some people get uncomfortable when you lay it out like that. So after she reads this poetry with her original band, she breaks into her song, People Have the Power. She belts it out. Everybody in the hall, in this sold out hall, is singing People Have the Power. And it's a beautiful moment. And as the song is closing out, as the whole night is closing out, she screams, "Use your fucking voice!" And everyone erupts in cheers. And that was a hopeful moment. And that was a clarifying moment. And it was shortly after that I remembered, oh yeah, the thing that I've been afraid to do the Joosh episode for the 10th one, for the last one that I wanted to do. I don't know. I'm either gonna do more solo episodes or I'm gonna start interviewing people. But yeah, I think that's what I wanted to get out today. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for participating. I want to thank you for all of the emails and the suggestions of things to cover and people to reach out to. If you have a suggestion, or if you want to talk to me on the show, email clashclownpod@gmail.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, oh, did we get into how Sacha Baron Cohen is a Zionist? Okay, good night, everybody.